Have you ever closed your eyes wanting to sleep, yet 100 thoughts surge in like a relentless tide? Questions without answers echo. What will happen tomorrow? Am I doing well enough? What if everything falls apart? What drains us is not work or life itself, but the noise inside the mind, a place where we are never truly at rest. Stoic philosophy once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Seneca. The problem does not lie in the world outside, but in how we respond to it. Tonight, instead of running away from your thoughts, learn to face them and then let them go. Let Stoic philosophy guide you back to stillness, a place where sleep is no longer a battle, but a reward for a mindset free. If you are exhausted from overthinking, this is the moment to learn the art of tranquility, the timeless lesson that Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus left behind for restless souls like ours. Insomnia is not the enemy of the night. It is a mirror reflecting a mind yet to be still. When the body lies quiet but the mind keeps running, we have not truly rested. External noise can be silenced, but the inner noise streams of thought, regret, and fear are what truly drive sleep away. The philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." It is our imagination, not our circumstances, that creates most of our suffering. Every time we fear what has not yet come, regret what has passed, or punish ourselves for mistakes, we surrender the peace of this very moment. The Stoics taught that peace does not come from erasing emotion, but from the ability to observe it without being swept away. When we realize that every thought is merely a cloud passing through the sky of the mind, we stop identifying with it. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Insomnia does not come because the night is too long. It comes because we are resisting our own mind. True sleep does not begin when you lie your head on the pillow, but when you lay your mind to rest. Look at the thoughts that arise before sleep, not to judge them, but to understand that they are only ripples on the surface of a lake. When you stop trying to still them, the water settles on its own. That is the beginning of deep sleep, the state Marcus Aurelius called the harmony between reason and nature. In the modern world, where people are stretched thin by speed and expectation, rediscovering inner stillness has become an urgent journey. Sleep cannot be bought with medicine. It can only be attained when we learn to let go of what does not belong to the present. As Seneca reminded us, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." Only when we stop creating imagined suffering can we truly rest. When we realize that sleep is not a battle against the night, but a journey back to ourselves, we touch the first door of peace. Yet, to walk through that door, we must grasp something deeper in the Stoic spirit. If the earlier lesson teaches that inner noise steals sleep, then this one offers the key to calm the mind, the art of letting go of what lies beyond our control. Stoic philosophy does not promise a life without storms. It teaches us how to remain steady within them. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." We cannot prevent events from unfolding, control other people, or command the world to pause simply because we are tired. Yet we can always choose our response. When we release the desire to control everything, the mind naturally becomes still like a lake that settles when the wind ceases to blow. True peace does not come from favorable circumstances, but from the harmony between reason and acceptance. Seneca said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." Peace is not the removal of worry, but the art of living with it calmly. A mind grateful for the present moment is no longer held by the past or threatened by the future. When we are thankful for this very breath, even the simplest act of living becomes a gift. Imagine that before sleep, instead of forcing yourself to fall asleep now, you simply whisper, "I know today wasn't perfect, but I am still here, still breathing, and that is enough." This simple gratitude is a Stoic practice. It lifts you out of the spiral of control and anchors your mind in the present. Epictetus taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." That is not only a philosophy of living, but also a philosophy of sleeping. Once we have done our part for the day, the only thing left is to surrender to let nature restore the body and let sleep come on its own. The more we try to control sleep, the more it escapes us. The more we trust, the more freely it is given. The Stoic spirit does not make us unfeeling. It makes us strong enough to stay calm amid imperfection. When we accept that the world outside may remain chaotic, we stop letting it disturb the world within. And in that moment, when all effort softens, peace arrives gently, just as sleep comes to those who no longer fear they cannot rest. When we learn to let go of what lies beyond our control, the mind begins to feel lighter. Yet to find true peace, we must go deeper within ourselves. Even when the outer world is quiet, a small storm still brews inside the inner noise of thoughts flowing endlessly, like a lake that keeps rippling, though no wind stirs. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But the paradox is that our own mind is often the loudest place of all. We think about what we haven't done, what we fear, what we left unsaid, and the mistakes we cannot undo. The mind becomes a chaotic stage where we are at once the audience, the actor, and the judge. And the more we try to think less, the stronger those thoughts grow. The Stoic does not seek to banish thoughts. They observe them. Epictetus taught, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear foolish and stupid." This is not only humility before others, but humility before one's own mind. When we dare to admit that we cannot control every thought, we begin to master them. Like a person sitting by a lake, we simply watch the ripples spread without trying to still the water. Stillness is not the absence of thought. It is the ability to stand apart from it. When a thought arises, we simply recognize it. This is fear. This is a memory. This is an assumption. Then we let it pass. Seneca, in Letters to Lucilius, wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary." Each time we believe a negative thought, we make ourselves suffer twice, once in reality and once in imagination. The human mind is never still, yet, like a lake, when no longer disturbed, it naturally reflects the clear sky above. That is why the Stoics practiced observatio animi, the observation of the soul each night before sleep. They did not try to flee from their thoughts, but face them to understand. We are not the noise. We are the stillness that hears the noise. And in that moment of realization, when we stop fighting the mind, stop trying to smooth every ripple on the water, our inner world begins to calm. Stillness does not come from external silence, but from inner observation without judgment. This is the first step to reclaiming sleep, and deeper still, to reclaiming the freedom of the soul. When we learn to observe the mind without judgment, the inner lake grows stiller. Yet even when the surface is calm, subtle ripples rise again in the quiet of the night, when nothing remains but ourselves. It is in that silence that the three most insidious enemies of sleep appear: exaggerated worry, self-criticism, and fearful prediction of the future. They are quiet, almost invisible, yet powerful enough to steal the deepest peace of the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Today I escaped from anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside." He understood that anxiety does not come from the world, but from the way we see the world. At night, imagination grows stronger than ever. Small worries of the day swell into looming disasters in the mind. An unanswered email, an unfinished conversation, or a wrong decision all become scripts of failure that we ourselves compose. Yet most of what we fear never truly happens. Then comes self-criticism, the familiar voice whispering, "You should have done better. Why do you always fail?" That voice makes us forget that human beings were not made to be perfect, but to learn and adjust. Seneca reminded us, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. No one grows without mistakes." When we blame ourselves, we do not move forward. We only exhaust the mind by waging war against ourselves. And finally, there is fear of the future, the force that keeps us awake, not because of the present, but because of what has not yet happened. Epictetus wrote, "When you are disturbed by external things, it is not they that trouble you, but your own judgment of them." The future itself is not frightening. Only our interpretation of it is. Each time we imagine something terrible, we live in two realities, one of today and one of a fear that has yet to arrive. These three enemies dissolve only when we face the illusion behind them. When we see that worry, guilt, and fear are nothing more than passing thoughts that are not us, they lose their power. Just as night cannot swallow the dawn, such thoughts cannot harm a mind that has learned to observe them with reason. Remember, peace is not the absence of worry, but the ability to see worry without letting it rule you. When we understand this, we no longer need to fight the night. We only need to light a lamp within. And in that inner light, sleep arrives not as a reward, but as something natural, the result of a mind that has learned to let go. Once we recognize that worry, guilt, and fear are illusions of the mind, another doorway appears in the loop of anxiety itself. It is subtler this time, for the new cause of sleeplessness is not fear of the world, but fear of sleeplessness itself. The more we fear not sleeping, the more sleep escapes us. It is like trying to catch a small bird. The harder we chase, the farther it flies. Sleep comes only when we stop, open our hands, and allow it to land on its own. Stoic philosophy saw this loop clearly. Epictetus in the Enchiridion wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." It is not sleeplessness that makes us suffer, but the belief that sleeplessness is a disaster. When we attach negative meaning to wakefulness, we create a second layer of anxiety upon the first. Each time we glance at the clock or think, "I must sleep now," the mind tightens and sleep drifts even farther away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. His words apply not only to the pains of life, but also to sleepless nights. When we stop judging our condition and cease forcing the body into a mold, something remarkable happens. The mind relaxes and the body restores its natural rhythm on its own. The Stoics taught that peace is not gained by controlling every feeling, but by receiving them with reason and trust. Seneca said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." When we fear being tired tomorrow, we suffer twice, once in the night and once in imagination. The only way to break this cycle is to accept that sleeplessness is not failure, but a signal. The mind is asking to be heard, not commanded. Try to see sleep as a friend, not a goal to conquer. Let the night become a space for release, where there is nothing to achieve. When we stop fearing sleeplessness, when we soften and trust nature, the body quietly finds its own rhythm again. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" Each sleepless night is not a mistake. It is part of the rhythm of life, teaching us the greatest Stoic lesson to remain calm amid what we cannot control. And when we accept this, the small bird returns gently to the open hands that have learned to let go. When we release the fear of sleeplessness, the mind begins to feel lighter. Yet true peace does not come only from the absence of fear, but from laying down what we carry. Many lie in bed not with a pillow, but with 100 thoughts piled high, unfinished plans, unspoken words, unresolved worries. These thoughts fill the mind like a crowded room, leaving no space for rest. That is when we turn to a simple yet profoundly powerful act, writing down what weighs on the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Meditations not to instruct others, but to teach himself." His writings were a dialogue between mind and soul, a means of arranging, releasing, and cleansing. He once said, "Put from you the belief that I have been wronged, and with it will go the feeling. Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." Each time we write, we transform emotion into words, moving it from the vague realm of feeling into the clarity of reason. When we write, the weight in our mind is laid down on the page, and in that moment, the mind becomes free. Seneca also advised Lucilius in letters to Lucilius, "Each day, acquire something that will fortify you against poverty, against death, indeed against other misfortunes as well. And after you have run over many thoughts, select one to be thoroughly digested that day." That is the spirit of writing. To look back on the day, to learn one thing, and to let the rest go. Without writing, our thoughts keep circling endlessly. We believe we are reflecting, but in truth, we are only repeating. Think of writing as a ritual of releasing the mind. Each word laid on paper is a stone lifted from the chest. Writing does not need to be perfect or elegant. It only needs to be honest. Write so that the mind knows it no longer has to hold everything, that there is another place keeping it safe. In doing so, you send a message. I have done my part for today. Now it is time to rest. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Peace is the same. It is built from small repeated acts, like writing down the thoughts that trouble us." Gradually, this becomes a habit, a meditative space made of words, where we do not flee from our thoughts, but guide them into order. And when the final page is closed, what remains is not emptiness, but relief. The mind then feels like a field after rain, clean, moist, and ready for peaceful sleep. To free the mind is not to forget everything, but but to choose the moment to stop, to let the mind rest and the soul breathe. When we close that last page, the mind grows lighter, as if washed free of the dust of a long day. Yet the journey toward peace does not end with releasing the past. It continues by returning to the present. For no matter how much we write, if the mind still wanders between what was and what will be, we are still missing the most precious thing, the now. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, reminded himself and us, confine yourself to the present. That brief line holds the entire spirit of Stoic philosophy. Only in the present do we truly live, truly feel, and truly rest. The past is only a memory, the future mere imagination. Neither exists outside our mind. Yet it is this very mind that becomes trapped in them, forging invisible chains that keep us from peace. Seneca wrote in Letters to Lucilius, "We are tormented not by the things themselves, but by our opinions about them." Most of these opinions concern the past and the future realms beyond our power to change or control. When we return our focus to the present, we step free from that trap. Inhaling, we know we are alive. Exhaling, we know we are letting go. And in that seemingly simple moment, the mind finally rests. The Stoics did not withdraw from the world. They lived fully in each moment of it. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will go on well." The power of the present lies in accepting it as it is. When we stop trying to make things different, when we simply exist with the breath, the sounds, the beating of the heart, the mind naturally grows still. Imagine a quiet night, a dark room, a soft wind outside, the steady rhythm of your own breathing. No past, no future, only this moment. The more we try to grasp it, the more it slips away. Yet when we allow it to unfold on its own, it opens like a doorway to peace. Seneca expressed it simply yet profoundly. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. We fear time because we are never within it. But when we are truly present, when we live within each breath, each sound, each sensation, even for a single instant, we touch eternity. The power of the present lies not in grand action, but in full presence. When the mind stops running, when we cease to do and begin to be, sleep is no longer a goal, but the natural result of a soul at rest. For only in this moment, and in this moment alone, do we truly find rest. Once we learn to dwell in the present, the breath becomes an anchor, steadying the mind amid the waves of thought. Yet the peace of mind is complete only when the body too is at rest, for we are not merely souls that think, but bodies that feel. And just as the mind must be prepared to let go, the body also needs small rituals before sleep, gentle signals whispering, "The day is over, it is time to rest." Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The body should be treated more rigorously, that it may not be disobedient to the mind." This was not a call to punish the body, but a reminder to guide it intentionally rather than let it be swept along by the chaos of life. After a long day, the body carries countless traces of tension, movement, and spent energy. If we do not help it release these, it continues to react as if the day has never ended. A warm bath, a few slow breaths, soft light, gentle music, these are not mere habits, but rituals of transition, from wakefulness to stillness, from action to rest. Seneca once said, "Every night before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what infirmity have I mastered today? What passions opposed? What temptation resisted? What virtue acquired?" His words are not only a call to self-examination, but an invitation to close the day with awareness. When we pause to breathe, to bathe, to read a few quiet lines, we are telling the body, everything is done. Now it is time for peace. The Stoics understood deeply the link between mind and body. Epictetus advised, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery of the self is not only the control of emotion, but the act of listening to the body and shaping the environment to align with nature. Keeping the room dark, cool, and quiet is not a luxury. It is a way of activating the body's deepest mechanisms of rest. Just as the setting sun signals nightfall, these small actions become the body's twilight, its cue to lay down its weapons and lower the curtain of the mind. When we treat sleep as a sacred part of life's rhythm, every gesture before bed becomes a ritual of gratitude for the body that has carried us through the day, for the eyes that have seen the world, for the breath that continues to flow. And when all the senses have been soothed, we no longer need to try to sleep. Sleep arrives on its own, just as Marcus Aurelius said, "Be content to see things as they are." The body rests, the mind settles, and in that harmony, we return to our most primal instinct to rest, so that we may be renewed. After the body has been calmed by evening rituals, the slow breath, the gentle light, the silence, there remains one final step, the attitude of the mind. For even when the body is still, if the mind resists, sleep cannot come. Here, Stoic philosophy reveals a deeper truth. Peace is not found in controlling sleep, but in accepting the very moment of wakefulness itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" Acceptance is not surrender. It is trust that everything, even a sleepless night, unfolds within the natural order of the universe. When we stop resisting, reality, tension dissolves, and peace quietly emerges. Seneca also reminded us, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." This means that even when our eyes will not close, we can still feel gratitude for a body that rests, for a heart that beats, for another day that has passed. Gratitude is the mind's most natural sedative. Instead of asking, "Why can't I sleep?" say, "I am grateful for the bed beneath me, for this time to listen to myself." Gratitude transforms inner energy from tension into tenderness. The Stoics believed in the harmony of nature's cycles, day following night, spring succeeding winter. Epictetus wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." Sleep is no different. It cannot be forced, only received. To trust the body's natural rhythm is an act of wisdom, an understanding that everything in life moves at its own pace. And in that trust, in that gratitude, we learn to let the mind rest. A sleepless night is no longer an enemy, but a teacher showing us patience, teaching us to rest even before sleep arrives. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When our thoughts take the tone of acceptance and gratitude, sleep comes naturally, just as dawn follows night. And then, in the final breath before drifting into sleep, we realize, true peace is not the absence of restlessness, but the ability to smile amid imperfection, to trust that dawn, though delayed, will still come. When we learn to accept sleepless nights and trust the body's natural rhythm, we have already taken a step toward peace. Yet for that peace to endure, we must go deeper into the journey of knowing ourselves. For, as Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look. No enemy is greater than the fear within, and no friend more faithful than self-understanding. To understand oneself is not merely to face the mirror and see one's flaws, but to recognize what triggers anxiety, what drains energy, and what nourishes the mind each day. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control the world, we can regulate our mental diet, what we allow the mind to consume. Seneca wrote in Letters to Lucilius, associate with people who are likely to improve you. This applies not only to people, but to everything we take in music, news, social media, and even the words we speak to ourselves. If we constantly feed on negativity, the mind can never rest in peace. To understand oneself is also to learn to rewrite the inner story. Many live inside narratives they never chose. I always fail. I'm not good enough. I must try harder. Yet Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When we change our perspective, the story itself transforms. A failure can be an ending or the beginning of wisdom. To rewrite our inner story is an act of mental renewal, shifting from self-criticism to self-understanding. And then comes a lesson seemingly simple yet deeply stoic. Allow the mind to be bored. In a world overflowing with stimulation, we forget that the mind too needs rest, just as the body needs sleep. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If we never leave space within, the mind is stained by the noise around us. Boredom, doing nothing, simply sitting and observing, is the quiet in which the mind begins to heal itself. Self-understanding is not a destination, but a return. Each time we recognize the root of our worry, each time we choose to feed the mind with something good, we renew our inner energy. The Stoics did not strive for perfection. They sought honesty with themselves. They knew that from truth, all change begins. And when we truly know ourselves, we cease to be victims of the mind and become its guide. Then, sleep is no longer an escape from exhaustion, but the reward of deep self-awareness, a rest within understanding itself. When we begin to understand ourselves, to see the roots of our anxiety, rewrite our inner story, and allow the mind to be still and bored, we not only heal sleepless nights, but also sow the seeds for awakened days. For nighttime rest does not begin when we lie down. It is built from the way we live our day. A chaotic day cannot end in a peaceful night. In contrast, a day lived with awareness, rhythm, and moments of stillness naturally unfolds into a calm night as a quiet reward. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in Meditations, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Every thought during the day is a brick laid in the architecture of the night. If we feed the mind constant tension, struggle, and negativity, closing our eyes will not bring stillness. But when we learn to pause amid the noise to breathe, to listen, we train the mind to rest even before the night arrives. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-mastery is not only the ability to restrain emotion, but also the capacity to create small pauses in the day, to step away from work for a short walk, to turn off the phone and look at the sky, or simply to sit in silence for a few breaths. These small, seemingly trivial pauses are exercises that teach the mind to stop, so that when night falls, it already knows how to be still. Seneca, in On Tranquility of Mind, wrote, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. Peace is not something to be found outside. It is something we cultivate within." The practice of inner silence is a Stoic discipline, learning not to react to every stimulus, not to let the mind be carried away by the noise of others. When we choose what to allow in words, news, and emotions, we are protecting our mental energy. Our daily habits are also a test of patience with ourselves. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Don't be overheated by what's in front of you. Be calm, steady, simple." Every act of haste, every demand for perfection pricks the mind like a needle. But each time we treat ourselves with gentleness, we teach the nervous system to return to its natural rhythm, where sleep comes as naturally and effortlessly as breathing. Nighttime sleep is the mirror of the day. If our days are filled with tension, our nights will not be calm. But if our days contain pauses, silence, and gratitude, then when night comes, the mind will know there is nothing more to do, nothing more to think. At that point, we do not seek sleep. Sleep seeks us. When a day is lived with awareness, silence, and patience, the night is no longer an escape, but a homecoming. And in that moment, everything we have practiced letting go, observing, being grateful, being present, crystallizes into something deeper than sleep itself, enduring peace. This is not the fleeting quiet of the mind, but the state of harmony between body, mind, and soul, where the human being is wholly renewed. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When we understand that true strength lies within, we stop seeking rest in the outer world and find it instead in inner stillness. Rest, in the deepest Stoic sense, is not merely sleep. It is the cessation of resistance to life. It is allowing everything, including ourselves, to simply be. Seneca reminded us, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." This teaches that rest is not escape, but full presence in the now, a state free from the pull of the past and the weight of the future. When we live this way daily, sleep becomes nothing more than a natural result of a soul already at peace. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-mastery is not just the control of emotion, but the guidance of one's own inner energy, knowing when to stop, when to release, when to listen. To live this way is to live freely. And that freedom is the foundation of all true rest, for nothing exhausts the human spirit more than being bound by one's own thoughts. Rest, then, is not the end of a day. It is the continuation of life. It is where the body heals, the mind realigns, and the soul is renewed. When we practice gratitude, stillness, and release, we return to ourselves the most precious gift of all, to live as a whole human being. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This is the true reward of restful sleep, not merely the night's slumber, but the dawn within the soul. When we reach this state, we no longer seek peace, for peace has become what we are. This is the destination of all Stoic practice, a state where one no longer wavers before circumstance, where every breath is a prayer and every sleep a homecoming. Restful sleep is only the result. Serenity is the essence.